The old wooden ranch house creaked as the morning sun climbed over the horizon. Outside, the fields were drenched in gold, and the first sounds of livestock echoed through the valley. Inside, in a modest kitchen filled with the aroma of bacon and fresh cornbread, a teenage girl stood by the stove, her back slightly hunched, shoulders stiff. Emma stirred a pot of grits slowly, mechanically, her mind 1,000 miles away. She had only started working here a few days ago, taking over her mother's duties as the ranch cook. Her mother, Maria, had collapsed suddenly with chest pains, and the hospital bills were already piling up. Emma had no time to cry at home. Work was the only way she knew to help, but even the strongest hearts break in silence. She bit her lip as she stirred the pot, blinking rapidly, trying to hold back tears. Her fingers trembled when she cracked the eggs into the hot pan. Her mother used to hum while cooking. Emma had tried once to hum the same tune, but it got caught in her throat. Behind her, footsteps echoed down the hall, quiet but firm. Thomas Blake, the widowed owner of the ranch, paused at the edge of the kitchen. In his 50s, with a grizzled beard and tired eyes, he'd grown used to solitude since losing his wife 3 years ago. The house had been quiet, too quiet until this girl stepped in. He watched her for a moment, noticing the way she turned slightly away from the doorway, as if trying to hide her face. Then he saw eye to just one tear, silently falling into the eggs. He cleared his throat gently. "Mornin', Ma." Startled, she wiped her face quickly with the edge of her sleeve and turned. "Morning, Mr. Blake. Breakfast's almost ready." He stepped into the room, nodding. "Smells good. You cooked like your mama." She smiled faintly, but her lips wavered. "Thank you." He watched her for a moment longer. "You sure you're alright?" Emma nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Just the onions, a broken bar." Thomas didn't press her. He simply nodded and walked toward the dining room. But his heart was heavy. He'd seen that look before on his wife's face, long ago, when grief had settled in like a storm. He had hired a cook, but maybe broken bar, just maybe broken bar, someone had walked into his kitchen who needed more than just a job. The ranch buzzed with its usual rhythm. Horses whinnied from the stables, cowboys shouted across the corral, and the sun climbed higher into the sky. By noon, the ranch hands gathered in the mess hall, the long wooden table covered in plates of hearty stew, cornbread, and sweet tea. Emma served them quickly and quietly, offering shy smiles as the men thanked her. She had already cleaned the kitchen twice and refilled the pitchers, but when the workers began to eat, she slipped away without touching her own plate. She walked to the porch and sat on the top step, the warm wood beneath her reminding her of home. She held a plate of food in her lap, but the fork never rose. Her stomach twisted with worry. The latest hospital update hadn't been good. The medicine her mother needed was too expensive. The small savings they had left were gone. Emma had sold her phone, her guitar, even a silver ring her mother gave her. Still, it wasn't enough. As she stared out at the horses grazing in the field, the screen door creaked open behind her. Thomas Blake stepped outside, a glass of tea in his hand. He said nothing at first, just sat beside her, quiet and heavy like the land he worked. For a few moments, they just looked out over the ranch. The wind carried the distant sounds of work and the smell of dust and grass. "You ever sit in silence like this with your mama?" he finally asked. Emma nodded. "Every evening, after dinner, we'd sit on our porch just like this. She'd hum or talk about the day. Now a broken bar, now it's just me." Thomas sighed and looked toward the horizon. "Used to sit here with my wife. Every noon, same chair you're in. She'd tell me the things I never noticed, like how the old fence leaned left after a storm, or how that red mare was limping just a little." Emma looked down at her hands. "I'm trying my best, Mr. Blake." He turned to her. "I know you are. You're doing more than most folks would at your age." She hesitated, then whispered, "I don't think I can do it anymore. The bill's a broken bar, they're too much." Thomas studied her face, the pain behind her eyes. Then he said, firmly but gently, "How about we make a deal? You keep helping me here, I'll help your mama. This ain't charity, it's a partnership." Emma blinked at him, stunned. Her lips trembled, and her voice cracked. "You a broken bar, you'd really do that?" He nodded. "You've got a good heart, Ma. Don't let this world break it." Weeks passed like the turning pages of a well-worn book, and with each day, the ranch began to breathe again. It wasn't just the fences getting fixed or the barns getting cleaned up, it was the subtle things. Laughter returned to the porch. Flowers bloomed outside the kitchen window. The sun seemed to shine a little brighter on Blake Ranch. Emma had become more than just a cook. She rose before dawn, kneading dough and frying bacon, then changed into boots and jeans to help mend fences or walk the perimeter with the hands. Thomas noticed how the men respected Hira, how they listened when she pointed out a sick calf or suggested a better way to store feed. She had grit, the kind his wife used to have, and Thomas a broken bar he found himself changing too. He didn't notice it at first, but he caught himself whistling while mucking the stables. He started fixing the porch swing his wife used to sit on. He even shaved more often and stopped skipping supper. Emil had lit something inside the house and inside his heart that he thought had long gone cold. One afternoon, while Emma was brushing down a horse in the stable, Thomas leaned against the stall door and said, "Didn't know you were good with animals too." Emma smiled and wiped her brow. "Mama used to volunteer at the animal shelter. I helped when I was little. I've always loved them. Thought maybe someday I'd be a vet." Thomas crossed his arms, studying her. "Then why aren't you?" She hesitated. "Money, life. I had to grow up fast." He nodded slowly. "What if I helped? There's a college nearby. Vet program's good. You could work mornings and study afternoons. We could figure something out." Emma looked up, eyes wide. "You mean it? I wouldn't offer if I didn't. You've earned more than just a job here, Ma. You've earned the future." The air caught in her throat, and she couldn't speak. She simply threw her arms around him and held on tight. For the first time in a long time, Thomas didn't pull away. The pain of his past didn't haunt him in that moment. It felt like healing. And in the quiet stillness of that barn, a new kind of family was forming, a one not by blood, but by kindness, trust, and hope. 1 year later, Blake Ranch looked like a different place. Not just cleaner or more productive, yet it felt alive. Fences had been rebuilt, the old barn roof replaced, and a new vegetable garden thrived near the kitchen. But the biggest changes weren't visible from the outside. They lived in the hearts of those within. Emma now walked the ranch not as a shy teenager, but as a confident young woman. She wore a worn leather belt with her name stamped into it, gifted by the ranch hands who now saw her as one of their own. In the evenings, she studied thick textbooks, often sitting on the porch where Thomas's wife once rocked, her veterinary dream finally within reach. Her mother, Maria, had recovered and now lived in the guest house. She spent her mornings baking bread and her afternoons sewing, often telling Thomas stories that made him laugh for the first time in years. The ranch, once full of silence and ghosts, echoed with warmth, music, and laughter again. One evening, the community gathered at the ranch for a summer supper. Lanterns swung from tree branches, long tables were lined with homemade food, and the air buzzed with conversation. Thomas stood at the head of the table, his hands resting on the back of a chair. "I'd like to say something," he began, his voice steady but deep with emotion. The crowd quieted. "This ranch was dying not long ago, and so was I, in a way. After I lost my wife, I didn't think I had anything left to give. Then a girl walked into my kitchen, trying not to cry while making eggs." Soft laughter rippled through the crowd. Emma lowered her head, smiling. "She came here looking for a job, but what she gave us was more than that. She brought back life, family, hope. She didn't just save her mommy, she saved this whole ranch." The guests clapped warmly. Emma stood beside Thomas, her eyes shining. "I didn't do it alone," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "He believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "You remind me of my wife, not just because you can cook," he chuckled, "but because you never gave up, even when the world tried to break you." As the sun set over the horizon, the lights of the ranch glowed with a golden warmth, and in the hearts of everyone there, one truth was clear. Family isn't always what you're born into. Sometimes, it's what you build together.